What a great night of fighting. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more fighting. UFC 205. I want to do my official post-fight, full fight review. Conor McGregor, he knocked out Eddie Alvarez, who was lightweight champion, and he did it in dominant fashion. Now, I did a quick video just talking about Conor McGregor. He set history with this win. He now becomes the first and only UFC fighter in history to simultaneously hold two belts in two different weight divisions at the same time. And that's big news. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get into some of the politics. People are going to be like, oh, he didn't defend against Jose Aldo in a rematch, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. The bottom line is he set history, and he's going down in history for that, for the UFC. He did it. Now, about the performance, I'll give you guys the good and the bad and the ugly. Now, I can't really say anything bad about Conor McGregor's performance. He came out very similar to how he came out in the fight with Nate Diaz in the second one. I think he realized the mistakes. I think Conor McGregor, love him or hate him, he could scrap. And I think he might be a OCD perfectionist, and he really works on his game. Like, he knows he's talking big shit and he wants to live up to it. So when I seen him fight Nate Diaz in the rematch, I think he was mad that he lost and got submitted and stuff in the first fight. So he wanted to come out correct. Now, Nate Diaz just being a different puzzle, tall, durable, and rangy, loopy kind of shots was different than the fight with Eddie Alvarez, clearly, because both the Diaz fights were very competitive, and this was a one-sided fight. But I think Conor McGregor, he came out methodical like he did in the Diaz rematch, and he was focused. Like, the thing I like about Conor McGregor is he's pretty surgical. Like, I look at just posture and body language. You watch the Jose Aldo fight, right? He just came out and looked focused, like, you know what I'm saying? He's a real fighter. He does this thing. It reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Blind Fury, where Rutger Hauer plays this blind dude and you can't see, and that's what he does. He uses he's obviously a southpaw. Conor McGregor uses his right hands like open hand, like he's just feeling around, like he's looking for braille or trying to find his way, and he uses that as kind of like a feint. And he has the left hand just cocked and loaded, pause, and he's ready, trying to time it. The hand speed difference was clearly apparent early between Alvarez and Conor McGregor. You clearly seen who had the faster hands. And Conor McGregor has good reflex and reaction time, I would say. And it was just on full display. He knocked down Eddie Alvarez 3 times in the first round, and he was clearly hurt in those exchanges. You know what I mean? He just looked like puzzled. Another thing is, Conor McGregor, a lot of people, I told people he was huge at featherweight. Huge. I don't even know how he's making weight. I heard he was cutting 32 plus pounds in a week and stuff like that. Huge, pause, for a featherweight. So having the experience at 170 against a very durable, taller Nate Diaz, that's definitely prepared him and helped prepare him for dropping back down in weight to 155, or if he goes back down to featherweight to defend that other title. He may not, it might be too much of a chore or a process for him to make featherweight at this point, right? And there's plenty of talent in the talent pool. Nurmagomedov, a very dangerous fight, and we've seen that in the Michael Johnson. If he gets you to the mat, it's a problem. So there's a lot of healthy options for Conor McGregor. Clearly the biggest star in the UFC. When he fights, he makes noise. The build-ups are there, the trash talking, and he's becoming the Floyd Mayweather. I'm not saying he's accomplished what Floyd has accomplished. He's becoming clearly the standout cash cow that everybody knows about. And not only that, he's pretty much backing up what he said with the hiccup of the Nate Diaz loss, right? And I don't know. He does, back to my analogy, he does this thing like Blind Fury, like he's reaching around, uses his right as like a rangefinder. And he's like, ha, ha, and then he's ready at all times with that left. And I told you guys this, I even made a video. He watched boxing. He was watching, and I could tell Conor McGregor, whether you love him or hate him, he's studying. Between him and his team and his coaches, he's studying. He's part of pop culture. Like, I could tell for a person, I just see little things like that because I'm the same way. Like, I'm big on like 80s movies or this and that and music, you know what I'm saying? I could tell Conor McGregor's the same way. He wore the Biggie Smalls Notorious Big, the Coogee sweater, the multicolored sweater. He had the Joe Frazier white mink with the red undertones underneath it, the red sweater or turtleneck or whatever. And he was watching, I did a video about it, he was watching Floyd Mayweather Sr. train Chris Eubank Jr. If you guys only follow MMA, those are boxers, and obviously the other is Floyd Mayweather's dad, and he was working on the pull counter, which he executed in this fight. Like, I think that's if I'm not mistaken, that's the sequence that set up the knockout. Now, what he did was beautiful. You could tell, and the reason I say he's a true fighter, obviously he's a fighter, he's a professional fighter, but the reason I say that is because his follow through is there. Like, he knows what to do. He doesn't let you off the hook. He hurt with the initial shot. I don't remember the exact sequence. I got to watch it again. But he hurt Eddie Alvarez in the second round. Then he followed up with like a right. Then he shot the left, temple shot, and he was piecing him up. And it's too many methodical precision punches, and he got him out of there with like four or five punches, you know what I mean? Combination punches. He's a hell of a striker. His takedown defense was pretty good. You know what I'm saying? He's a strong dude. And another thing I like about Conor McGregor, where he's improving, is his front kicks have been looking good, and it's just his kicks in general. You've seen a lot of reddening in the Nate Diaz rematch, and overall Eddie Alvarez didn't do much of anything. Eddie Alvarez before the fight had a lot to say. He's a tough guy. He's a champion, but the bad goes to him. He could have, I think, had a stronger showing. You know what I mean? You did all this, and I don't know, maybe there was a fear there, because there's this video I seen on the internet where Eddie Alvarez was like smiling when Conor McGregor's all in his face, but he looked a little bit shook. So that's another benefit for Conor. That's part of his strength. He did submit versus Nate Diaz, but nobody's just whooped him. Like, completely. I mean, you could say the Nate Diaz first fight, kind of, but he hasn't been like stretched and knocked out and like where it was one-sided. You know what I mean? Both the Nate Diaz, he was getting he was licking shots too. You know what I mean? And his confidence is part of his package. That's what makes him. He's very calm in there. Like I said, watch the Jose Aldo. I mean, it was only 13 seconds, but watch how he was. He was just very calm. For that big fight, that was clearly his biggest fight, his biggest test in most people's eyes versus Jose Aldo at the time. And he's very calm and cool, collected. And I think his confidence is a big help. He believes. Some people just say shit, but I think he truly believes he's a top-level fighter. And Eddie Alvarez, he just didn't pull the trigger. He didn't really do much of anything. It was a one-sided beatdown. And it's a little bit embarrassing because he was the champion, and there was a lot of talk before. Eddie Alvarez was saying, oh, all he has is a left hand and things like that before, but that left hand was piecing him up, you know what I mean? And that's just the cold, hard truth. That left hand, you said all he has is a left hand, and you clearly didn't prepare in camp for that left hand because he was shooting that left like nobody's business. In a way, it reminded me of Pacquiao's straight left, you know what I mean? Some southpaws just shoot it real nasty, and he just kept hurting Alvarez with it. And short fight, not much to break down. It was one-sided. Conor McGregor looked surgical. I mean, he did his thing, calm. You can't really complain. He had some front kicks in there. He didn't really get taken down or muscled around, things like that. So let me know who you guys want to see Conor McGregor face next. He set history, two-time champion, or two-division champion at the same time. Dana White has to be thrilled. Overall, I thought the whole card was really good. You know what I mean? I actually expected a little bit more from the Joanne Carolina fight, or I don't know how to pronounce their last names, but I expected more of a competitive fight. But it was a very good card. Even the prelims were like some of the best prelims that I remember on a recent UFC card. So UFC 205, I believe it was a success. It might have even done like, let's say 2.1 million in terms of pay-per-view because it was electric. People were anticipating it. First time in New York. They picked the perfect venue. Conor McGregor set history. He had some quotables leading up to the fight, after the fight. He says, I apologize to nobody. These guys can't deal with me. I rip heads off, things of that sort. So overall, I think it was a successful event. I enjoyed myself. Conor McGregor did his thing. One-sided beatdown. And I mean, he's the man. There's nothing really else you could say. You can't really, if you try to break down that performance as him doing something wrong, you're probably just a hater and you don't like Conor McGregor. I call it like I see. If like in the Nate Diaz fights, I thought he was gassing out, and I told people this too. It was a little bit different. He was going up to 170. He was eating up. He didn't look as diced and sliced up at 170 because he was like putting on, especially in the first fight, he had like 10, 14 days to put on that extra weight. he just looked bulky, like he was like bulky, like Mark Wahlberg in Pain and Gain. He just looked bulkier, like bulk season. And I told people this would be a more comfortable weight that he can manage and be more effective, because he seemed to gas out in both of the Diaz fights, not being able to get a guy as tough as Nate Diaz out of there. And that's just overall what I saw. Eddie Alvarez, let me know what you think he needs to do to bounce back. But he definitely, before the fight, I don't know, maybe it was just a humbling experience, but before, he seemed like he had a different view of Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor went in there and just diced him up. Diced pineapples. Rick Ross. Huh? Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off.